Welcome off the post. I'm Russ Cohen. We've got Anthony Mangione. Ant, how are you?
Not pretty damn good, actually.
That's good. Nice to hear. And Michael Jello, how are you?
Well, a lot better than I was on Sunday, and after Patrick Mahomes got folded in two by the Eagles. Even though I'm not an Eagles fan, congratulations and thank you.
You were allowed, Michael. You were obviously allowed to join the bandwagon with your Billy Club.
Yes.
Michael's just a fan of something he hates, so it's really not something anybody should celebrate.
Well, since any one of my teams has not won since 2009, the only thing I can do is embrace the hate.
Wow, that's a long time. Sorry to hear that, Mike.
Choose hate.
Yeah, and we have Jim Berenger on from RG Media and Full Press. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing good, Russ. Here at the Bell Center, Four Nations face-off here tonight. We're ready to rock and roll. I just want to shout out to my dad up in heaven who is watching. He's got the best seat in the house. So just shout out to my dad.
There you go. So let's start this off by just asking you, do you think, like, the first game tonight is Canada-Sweden? I told people I think Sweden has a chance of winning this one because Canada always starts off slow. There always seems to be too much overthinking. What's your feeling about that?
Yeah, I think everybody's underestimating the Swedes here. I think they got a really good team. Gustafson's going to start between the pipes. They're the quote-unquote home team designated, really. But Canada's the home team. The crowd's going to be rocking. It's going to be intense. Don't underestimate this team, right? We saw 02 Olympics. They beat up Canada in a longer tournament in the Olympics. This is a short tournament. You want to win. It's like a Pee-wee Bantam type tournament. You need to win your early games or else you're going to go home Monday. You want to be there on Thursday. So I think Sweden's going to be out for not blood, but they're going to be out for a hungry victory because, you
can never say Sweden's out for blood. It's kind of counterintuitive, but I get it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But I think they have a good chance of winning this game tonight because a lot of pressure's on Canada to perform at the Bell Center.
Jim, I am just waiting I don't think we're predicting Sweden beating Canada, but it's very possible because they're a good team. But if they do, I am waiting for all the columns across the Great White North to say, "Oh my God, we have to have a summit because our goaltending is so bad," because that's where it's going to go if they lose.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people were shocked that Jordan Binnington was named the starter by John Cooper. I think a lot of people thought they would go with Aiden Hill just because of the recent success. And Binnington's didn't have a great year, right? Like his numbers are not the greatest.
His team's not great either, to be fair.
No, to be fair. But when the last time he's played a big game was 2019 Stanley Cup. Look, you have to perform. This is a position for Team Canada throughout men's, World Juniors, international play that gets heavily scrutinized. And Team Canada, John Cooper said they're rolling with one guy throughout the tournament. Well, you better be prepared to make an adjustment because if he doesn't perform against Sweden, you're going to have to go to Aiden Hill against the Americans. You can't afford 2 losses in this tournament. And I think he's under the most pressure to perform on that team outside of a guy that plays for Toronto. I think everybody wants to see what he does in big moments. But I think all eyes are on Jordan Binnington in Game 1.
Yeah, but just let me add this before Anthony asks his question. The guy from Toronto, it won't matter a good goddamn if he shows up in this tournament because he's not showing up for Toronto. He's showing up for Canada. That's great. But if he doesn't show up for Toronto when it counts, he'll be run out of that city on a rail. But, okay, go ahead.
Jim, one team that certainly it seems like the Finns have such a tall hill to climb, especially with losing Ristolainen and a number of other players. Just what is your view on Finland and the chances that they have or if they have any at all in this tournament?
This is another team, right, for me that you don't want to underestimate. And I talked to a couple of guys yesterday at Media Day, and I ran into the great team with Solani. He's like, everybody underestimates Finland. We're hardworking, very good, disciplined, defensive team. They have 3 great centers down the middle, led by Alexander Barkov. They can make life tough for the Americans on Thursday. Their goaltending is good. You see Saros against Connor Hellebuck.
The team will talk about the defensive pairings. Just curious.
Yeah, he did say that. He was like, yeah, we're a little weak on the back end because
A little.
Yeah, he goes a little. But he's like, we got to run 5 guys on a power play because we just don't have Heiskanen back there. Like, that's the big thing. I think, like, that's the huge part for everybody, right? The defense part for Finland is huge. We know what they have up front. They have great 4 lines that can play great defense. A lot of good guys at penalty kill. But, I mean, you're going up against Austin Matthews, Jack Hughes, Jake Getzel, a lot of big-time guys at Kachucks. Your defense is going to be tested. But, again, that's another team to me, the way they play as a unit. And the big thing he said to me is, like, Finland, players growing up in Finland understand their roles from day one being on a national team. You can't say that about Team USA and Team Canada. Guys are always want the puck, always want to be superstars. Can they adjust quickly to be a 3rd or 4th line guy? Guys playing for Finland understand it's just about a team game.
That's fair. I mean, that always does happen. So with the U.S. team, you know, I just wrote about it on Hockey News about Cole Caulfield. While he may be on vacation, would be one of the best goal scorers on the team, but they clearly wanted to go bigger. Has there been any admission of that they want it to be bigger and faster, or are they just going to go with, well, you know, there's a lot of good talent here, and although Tage Thompson's big and fast too, and he didn't make it, what's the feeling on how they pick the roster and what kind of scrutiny they might be under if they don't do well?
Yeah, that's a great question, Russ, because Bill Guerin spoke yesterday, same with Mike Sullivan. He's like, this is the deepest roster Team USA has ever had. Like, going back.
It's not.
Going back.
Good. It's really good, but it's not.
But that's what he said. Like, that's his quote coming from the press conference. To me, I think they should have gone Cole Caulfield. The electricity that there would have been there in the Bell Center for him.
At the Bell Center, you have them rooting for somebody on the U.S. instead of booing the anthem. Like, that's a big deal.
Right. And what I believe he leads U.S. national development in goals during his time as a junior with that team. That says something. He's come up big in big tournaments for Team USA.
Internationally, he's been great.
He has been, and I think that it would be great for him to do to play for this team in Team USA. So, you know, I could see him. He should have been here, but they wanted to go bigger, faster, veteran guys that hadn't been there before. And obviously, Chris Kreider's a scratch for Game 1. He didn't, you know.
He might be a scratch for the whole tournament, Jim.
100%. I think he's going to be a scratch for the whole tournament. I just don't see where he fits in with this team, especially the way he was playing with the Rangers this year.
Right.
So to me, they should have brought in a guy that had speed. I know he's undersized, but you know what? Martin St. Louis was undersized for Team Canada, and look what he did for them when they won gold. So it says something having those type of players.
Well, okay, and I said this to Russ this morning when we were talking about Team USA, and we know that this is, you know, there's a lot of excitement for this tournament. I don't know how much excitement there is for the tournament or how much it is as a precursor for the Olympics, and everybody wants to put their best foot forward. And I look at Team USA, and if they fail, which I think they're as good up front as Canada. They're better They're better on defense with Pietrangelo being out, and their goaltending is vastly superior. But if they lose to Canada, people are going to say, well, Team USA didn't choose a fast enough club, and that's where a guy like Caulfield, who didn't get selected for this tournament, probably gets a leg up for Milano Cortina in 12 months.
Yes, I 100% agree. I know this is a launching point because this is a one-off tournament for the Olympics, but all eyes will be on certain players that didn't make the tournament for 2026 in the Olympics, right? And look, I don't want to say Team USA is overlooking Finland, but everybody knows the game that everybody wants to watch is Saturday night at the Bell Center, Canada, United States. And they shouldn't be looking over Finland because Matthew Tkachuk said it best. These are 4 Game 7s. You better come out and play your best. Bring the intensity and bring your best game, because if you don't win, you will go home early. And if Team USA loses to Finland, now you have to go beat Canada on a Saturday night in the Bell Center, which, look, let's be honest, some of this group has done before, but it was a long time ago at a different level. And the backs are against the wall on Saturday night for me if they lose.
He has to say that because he has to deal with Luosterainen and Barkov in his own locker room and a couple and he doesn't want them to have the one up on him. So that's what it is.
No. That's a fair point, but I think there's going to be no love lost by any of these guys on any of these teams, right? Yeah, everybody's friends, but they're not like Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Eric Haula. They're all going to go play hard against each other. Halla's going to defend this. He's going to take away the ice for Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. He's going to want to win. He's going to want to have one-ups on everybody. That's why I think the intensity when the puck drops on game one for everybody is going to be really high because, like I said, this is such a short tournament. You don't want to lose, and you don't want to overlook your opponent, even if they're missing top guys. So I'm excited for this thing. The players are excited because they haven't seen international hockey best on best in a long time, over a decade.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I said I'm not counting that 2016 World Cup because that was just a makeshift tournament that didn't have all the big hockey nations in it.
Jim, do you think there's going to be, after this tournament is over, do you think there will be some carryover effect for the remainder of the season in terms of you're coming out of a high intense short tournament and then you're back into the stretch run here? Do you see that this could provide some players a bit of a boost in performance going down the stretch?
Yes, I do, actually. That was a great question, by the way, because that was one of the questions I was asking players yesterday, especially guys that have been struggling, like Elias Lindholm, Elias Pettersson, guys like that. I said, can you carry your performance over into this game from these tournaments into the, to the stretch run because your teams are behind the 8 ball or you're just battling for a playoff spot? And they said yes. They believe that if you get on a tear here, you play well, you can find your game, get confidence, that can carry over in the regular season, especially for a guy like Pettersson because, he's been in trade talks, everything with Miller out in Vancouver's Canadian market. He looks like a different player. I know it's practice, but he just looks looser playing for Sweden right now. Maybe he's expecting something. I don't know. I'm not going to just oh, yeah, he's getting traded. No. I just feel like he's looser now. He's playing with Team Sweden. He's part of it, like this team, this bonding that's going on. And I think those guys that have been looking to find their game, Mika Zibanejad is another guy, even though he's getting hotter before the break, I think this is a tournament that can carry over into the rest of the regular season for players like that.
Jim, just like it's a bad idea to have a third version of the Bridget Jones Diary, which apparently is coming out soon. Is it 4? No, it's 3, Mike.
I think it's 4.
No, it's 3. I just I executive challenged that. But is it bad to have 13 days off? Could they have done this in a more expeditious way so it would have been like 8 or 9? 13 just seems excessive.
Yeah, I think it could have been done in a shorter version of this thing. I think there's too many days off in between Monday and then the final. I think you could have had this done by Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. And have one travel day and then play back-to-back and get this thing over with so we can get the NHL regular season.
Teams back to practice and then games by that weekend, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's no need to drag this thing out to Thursday. There's not much going up in Boston. There's 2 days off before the final. 2 teams are leaving on Monday, right?
Right.
I have to look at the schedule. I don't even think there's a consolation game. If there is, how many guys really want to play in that thing? Everybody wants to play for the championship. I don't think there is.
I'm not sure there is. I'm sending somebody and I don't even know. So
yeah. So I mean, is it really worth it to get this thing done by Thursday? Drag this thing out. I understand you want to have it in 2 cities, and it's 2 iconic cities, 2 original 6 cities. I get it. Yeah. But this thing could have been over in 8-9 days. Realistically.
Okay. First of all, I have to tell Russ this. You're wrong. Bridget Jones Diary, Bridget Jones Edge of Reason, Bridget Jones Baby, and now Bridget Jones Mad About the Boy.
Mike, I'm happily telling you you're right. In a sad way, that's bad for you.
The Zellweger Quartet, Russell.
Yes,
Deal with it. It's not a trilogy.
I had to look it up. Now, Jim, I talked to a veteran reporter when the Bruins were in town recently and asked him, what is the excitement level for the Four Nations face-off? And he said, virtually non-existent. Now, there may be the excitement level amongst the players. And like I said, I think it has to do with the Olympics and them wanting to be on that team. But I don't know. Let's just say this. I don't know if ESPN, TNT, or Sportsnet or whoever are going to pan into the crowd and show empty seats, if there are empty seats, like there were at the World Junior in Buffalo in 2018, because that was an embarrassment to Buffalo. And I don't think the NHL wants to be embarrassed by their broadcast partners if these games aren't sold out.
No, that's 100% fair. I mean, look, let's be honest. I think the marketing of this tournament could have been a little bit better, maybe a lot better. To quote some people, I think, look, there's excitement among the players, but you can tell the fans are just like, all right, this is a tournament. We want to see it get going. And I think it's fair that once they announced this thing, they should have been marketing it more, especially during the regular season. Yes, I get it. It's a one-off because real World Cup of Hockey is coming back in 2028. But this is an exciting thing, best on best. Yes, I know we can get into the Czechia and the Russias and everybody's not here. But between these four nations,
I mean, we don't have to get into it. Artemi Panarin already did. So
yeah, exactly, he did. But you look at it, right, and these NHLers, these four nations, I would have thought there would have been a little bit more in the States, especially. But again, this comes down to where can you find the games in the States, right? Is it ESPN Plus? Is it CNT? Is it this network? Is it that network? But they should have been running a little bit more than what they were, because it feels like there's hype up here in Montreal, but it doesn't really feel like there's excitement down in the States.
Yeah, it's legit. I mean, it's a legitimate point. I do wonder also, like as we just said, with less, it doesn't feel like a true best on tournament at the end of the day. It is to a point, but when you don't include, obviously you're not including the Russian players, or at least putting a combined, Europe, maybe a Team Europe squad together of some kind. That I think would be like 5 or 6 teams, but then you're expanding the tournament, right, Jim? It gets very difficult at that point.
Well, let me interject this, Anthony. It may not be best on best when Alex Pietrangelo says, I'm not playing in the tournament, plays every game up to the break with Vegas, but doesn't participate in the tournament. If this was the Olympics, there's no way he would have bowed out. No, not a chance.
Yeah.
That's a very fair point. No, I agree with you on that. I think if this was the Olympics, guys are playing. I think if this is the Olympics, Team USA is carrying Quinn Hughes to the Olympics and letting him rest and miss a couple of games until he's 100% healthy.
So I'm going to just say what the schedule is. Like tonight's game, TNT and Max. Thursday's game, ESPN, ESPN Plus. Saturday's game, ABC, ESPN Plus. The other Saturday game, same thing, ESPN, ESPN Plus. Monday, TNT and Max. Then in both games, TNT and Max, and then the championship, ESPN, ESPN Plus. At least it's on basic cable, but you still have to kind of flip back and forth. Like it's like
you're doing the playoffs too, though.
Yeah.
No, I know, but this isn't the playoffs. Like this could have been on one channel, legitimately.
Here's my thing: why aren't you maximizing ABC on a Saturday?
Well, I thought I saw ABC. Hold on, didn't I say ABC? Yes,
because ABC's got some sort of reality television program. That
No.
They got Wide World of Sports with the guy in the.
No. ABC.
They got to show Eddie the Eagle Edward.
No, Finland, Sweden is on ABC, ESPN Plus on Saturday, and then USA Canada is on ESPN Saturday night. So 1 p.m., 8 p.m. So ABC is getting 2 games.
So there you go.
Okay. So there you go. It's a third channel. Really a fourth, but
right after Australian rules football.
Just to make it The Bachelor. Okay, Mike, you happy?
All right. Mike's going to be the Bachelor.
Jim, what's happening with the Devils? They're, every once in a while I talk to you about them, and 1 year it's injuries, 1 year it's goaltending, 1 year it's injuries and goaltending. What's it this year?
Lack of execution, lack of consistency, lack of everything. I think. Look, there is injuries right now. Your number one goalie's out, and he'll be back after the break. Your number one center and your best defensive center is out, and he'll be there after the break in Nico Hischier. And you could clearly see they were a different team. I mean, you saw them live. You saw them live. This team can't defend
without Hischier. The defense, the forward defense just sags.
And the lack of inconsistent goal scoring. And this has been an issue since the summer, since Tyler Toffoli left. One night they score 5 goals. The next night they can barely score any goals. They get goalie. They score 1 or 2. Like they need a consistent pure goal scorer on this team. And look, yes, they're still adjusting to Sheldon Keefe. and his system. But the issue is when they get down in games and they play against teams like Carolina, like Vegas, like Tampa, they can't adjust. And that was the biggest knock on Keefe in Toronto was he couldn't adjust. This team wants to play one way, but you can't play one way. And then you have nights like you have against Montreal on Saturday where you just, trap and you play well like the old Devils, but you can't do that against better teams. Or when you do it against better teams, you lose in overtime and you don't stick with the plan. And I think they need to be more patient. They're still very immature, in my opinion. They need to mature a little bit more, and they got to gain that experience of understanding, okay, come out of this thing, we got to start playing our best hockey, inching towards the playoffs and playing a certain style and playing hard that way and being a hardworking team, because come playoff time, we're not going to be able to score off the rush. We're not going to be able to have those stretch passes through the middle. I've said this consistently, and I will stand on this. Carolina in 2023 wrote the book on how to beat the Devils in the playoffs. Just to clog up the middle because they just look for a stretch pass. And if you take that away, turnovers are going to happen, and that's going to lead to goals.
And don't worry, when Sheldon has successes in the playoffs, that'll.
Yeah. All right. Anyhow, Jim, thanks a lot for coming on. Enjoy the games. Really appreciate it. Say hi to Matt in Boston, who's covering it for Sportsology, and we'll catch up with you soon. Everybody should read you on RG Media and NHL Rumors, right? NHL Trade
That's
Rumors.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep, that's correct.
Have a good one.
Thanks,
Have a good
Jim.
one, guys. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jim.
Take care.
All right. So before we talk about like some trade rumors, two more things with the Four Nations. Does anybody in this panel think there'll be a trade during the Four Nations? I'm guessing not. I'm
leaning leaving the door open for a possible trade. Yeah. But I feel like the general managers have sort of, once again, these sort of a code of conduct here.
Right. They just don't want to.
Here's what might happen. We might have some discussions.
Oh, there'll be discussions.
And then we get maybe like 3 or 4 trades right out of the break, right out of everybody, right just before everybody.
I think that's something that
I do think is a I would put a higher percentage on that. But while the tournament is going on, I think it's going to be predominantly continued discussions, but no trigger pulling until after the tournament is done.
I think there's a chance that there will be a deal, but it'll be on an off day. It's sort of like the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, you don't take away from the league's signature event, but on an off day when they're traveling, why not? I mean, I think there's a possibility.
The question is going to be also whether that's a player that is currently in the tournament too.
Yeah, no,
you have to go from the tournament to home, and to the new club. That's complicated.
I bet you it won't be. I bet you it'll be, if it's a player, it's somebody who's in Aruba right now or something like that.
Okay,
or
Mexico. So let's pick winners. I thought about it. I'm gonna go with the U.S. I think they'll edge it out because of goaltending. I think that's what's going to be their saving grace here. But what do you guys think?
I mean, I don't mean to be a homer, but I think the U.S. is clearly the best team pre-tournament. That doesn't mean that they're going to win, but I think Hellebuck, the way he's played this year, gives them a big leg up, and I think they have. And like I said, the equal of Canada up front and defensively, I think they're better without Pietrangelo there. So I think the U.S. should be favored, but that's not a guarantee they're going to win.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, give me better goaltending for Canada. I probably would lean that direction.
Sure, I think I would too.
But I do think the goaltending is a big factor. Again, it's a short tournament, 1 or 2 bad games from a team that might have a better appearing roster, and that could surprise in that circumstance.
One goaltender interference call or not.
Yeah, I'm going to say Team USA wins, and we'll see if Finland gets at least 1 win.
Okay.
Well,
the Finns are going to hate me, obviously. I get.
Well, no, but okay, I'm sorry.
But Joni Nieminen doesn't hate you, and I can tell you that.
No, but I'm picking against Finland, so obviously.
Yeah, he'll hate you for that, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
When 3 teams. When they're practicing in Montreal or going through their defensive pairings, and every team has set defensive pairings, and the Finns have 1 defensive pairing, which I think was Nico Mikkola on the top pairing, and then 5 guys doing round robin.
They just rotated out the guy from Ottawa. They just got another defenseman in there.
Oh, did they bring in Vakanainen or
no? Vakanainen's already there, Mike. He's second pairing.
There you go.
Wow.
No, this is a different defenseman. I can't even remember who it is. So, yeah, They already made another switch. So yeah. All right. So let's talk trade rumors in the sense that we know they're going to happen. We know there's certain guys.
Of course, trade rumors are going to happen.
No,
trade rumors happen all the time, Russell. Come on.
Trades are going to happen.
There you go.
But what I do kind of wonder is, so Mike, even though there's zero chance of a trade, we'll talk about Marner for a second because he's not a trade rumor, but
Sure.
I do kind of wonder, what's the feeling on that one? Is there anybody talking about him signing?
No. Nothing yet. It's been complete dead silence, except for like one little blip after the Rantanen deal, because then everybody was saying, oh, well, if Rantanen, Rantanen had a partial no trade and Marner's got a no move, and he's made it clear that he was not going to waive. But apparently both Darren Ferris and Brad Treliving said they weren't going to negotiate this in the media. And I honestly think that they're not, I have no inside knowledge on this. I don't think they're talking. I mean, I think the whole thing with Marner from the point of view of the Leafs is, does he show up in the playoffs, and do they advance? And if he does, and if they do, then I think the chances of him signing an extension with Toronto increase. If he doesn't, I think they're going a different direction. Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. So with guys' names that are out there who could be traded, we hear Scott Lawton all the time, man, and
he's a popular guy.
I used an analogy that on the Flyer show Rachel didn't understand, so I made it. I spelled it out. I said this is like an episode of American Pickers. Mike Wolf walks in. There's a guy with a prize 57 Chevy, and Mike goes, "Is it for sale?" And the guy goes, "Well, give me a number," and he gives him a number, and it's a number that's so high that Mike goes, "All right, you obviously don't want to sell the car." I feel like that's what Danny's doing here. What's your feeling?
Yeah, I think just the constant back and forth, and but I do think there's something to be said for. I think Danny's got to get to the point of if you've already kind of gone down the path of trading a couple guys in that locker room who are kind of fan favorites in this case, and you're trying not, directly kind of signaling, and I hate to use this, signaling that you're going to make the squad further non-competitive for this season, so you can maximize, your ping pong balls come draft time.
Yeah, they're in the 6th or 7th spot, so it's
6th or 7th spot, which puts them in decent position for, I think, a pretty good player in that area. So that's really kind of where things are, and then they have to kind of continue to asset collect here. And again, we've heard enough conversations about who the Flyers might acquire at this point. Now, again, they are loaded up on picks in this draft. And they've got a few. Are they going to go try to grab a 2026 pick if that's involved? Again, if it's Toronto or we've had this conversation on Sunday about whether or not the Flyers' interest in Fraser Minten. What would that involve? If you are including Lawton, there's got to be probably a little more involved than just Scott Lawton in that circumstance. But Lawton's popular at the end of the day because he's got a very controllable contract and is a versatile player who could very well help it. I think can definitely help a Stanley Cup contender like a Winnipeg or a Toronto.
Mike, what's your thoughts? He's good in the room, Mike.
I think he's more than just good.
I'm just saying he is.
I think being good in the room is kind of being flippant about him. I think
no. It's not.
I think he's had a tough.
This isn't his best season, but he's always
not. It's a tough season for him.
I'm not disputing whether he's good in the room. I don't know. I think the more important thing for Toronto is he good on the ice? And I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just saying he's not what I think they're looking for. They're looking for a 3C who can step up to be a 2C. When the name Braden Shen came out, that made sense, even though he's 33 years old, but he's won a cup. He's a big body. He's played for Berube. If the Leafs are going to give up a 2026 first-round pick, I could see them giving it up for Braden Shen, even though I think there's probably a little fear of the $6.5 million salary and 3 years remaining on the deal and the no trade clause. And you go down the list. They're not giving. I don't think they're giving up a 2026 first for Scott Lawton, and I'm doubtful whether they give up Fraser Minten for Scott Lawton. I'm not saying Scott Lawton isn't good, but I think he's sort of in that 3C category with, say, Yanni Gord and a couple other guys who and his one benefit over those players is he's got another year at $3 million.
Like one other guy that I brought up on a different show that is his competition per se and cheap as well as Jake Evans, and Jake Evans is younger.
Yeah, I don't think he's as good. I don't think he's as good as Lawton. This is the first offensive year that he's had.
He's having a really good year.
I heard also the conversation of Jared McCann possibly.
I did just see that today.
Jacob Stoller, I think, reported that there might be interest there. So,
but McCann's played mostly the wing for them, so he's not. I mean, if he can play center, but he's more of a winger, and I think he's got 2 years left at $5 million. And that's a nice deal for a good player who scored 40 goals recently. But I don't think if he can play center, I don't think he's somebody who could play top 6 center.
Mike, what about Buffalo? Have they said that they're sellers yet? What's the feeling there?
No, I mean, and this could just be performative that, Kevin Adams is, me doth protest too much about trust wanting to make hockey deals. And then, then they sell at the deadline. But, they're making noise about keeping Greenway and signing him to an extension, and keeping Zucker and signing him to an extension.
Who would they trade then? If that's
right, exactly. First of all, it's like, okay, if you sign Zucker, he's 32 years old. He's having not a career year, but he's having a very good year for what he's had the most in the last few years. He's making $5 million. You have to pay more than $5 million.
Yeah, it'd be like 6.5.
And you have to pay him multiple years. So I don't think they're looking for that. I think that they'll say, well, we want to sign him, but in the end, we couldn't. So they end up trading him. But for Zucker, you're probably going to get a second-round pick, and that doesn't help them because they need players. And Jordan Greenway, who's in his mid-20s, who's got size, and he's a pretty good defensive player, and he's not a bad offensive player, you might get a second-round pick for him. That's not what they need. They need players. So, if it's past that, it's Henry.
In other words, if a team's talking, they might say, hey, we're interested in one of them, but we want Jack Quinn too, if you want to get a real player from us, right? Is it going to be something like that?
Well, I mean, Quinn's name has been brought up, but he's at his absolute lowest value right now. I mean, because he's had
but he still has a reputation of goal scoring from junior hockey, and people know what he is. So I still think there's value there with him.
I think there's a look-see type of situation, but I don't know if they can get value back in terms of a player. They don't want to trade him for a draft pick. They want to trade him for like an equally a comparably aged, equally talented player. And I don't know if that deal is out there. They want to make Bowen Byram for Casey Middlestat type deals. And I don't know if those are out there right now. The funny thing is the names you keep hearing Dylan Cousins, and we won't talk about that because we talked about it ad nauseum.
Right.
And then Alex Tuck, his name has come up. Elliot Friedman mentioned it last week, Tampa Bay and a couple other teams. He's got another year left in his contract. And I can't help but connect the fact that Vegas was basically squatting in Buffalo for the entire homestand,
right?
And him having played in Vegas and him having a relatively affordable salary, whether there's a connection between the two. But again, these are the players that I don't know if they don't get equal value that can play in the NHL right now, that they're going to make those deals.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you hear him and then you hear Vegas maybe like wanting Riley Smith back. And,
right.
Vegas does tend to, I believe they've gotten guys back before. I'm pretty sure they have once or twice. Mm-hmm. And so it wouldn't shock me if either one of those guys went in a deal. But you think Buffalo's doing all this last minute because they're putting up this fuss?
I think they're going to wait. I think they're going to try, they're going to wait till the 11th hour on the rentals because Kevin Adams in an interview recently said, well, it has to make sense to us. We want to keep him, but it has to make sense to us. And there's your out, because he will say, well, it didn't make sense to us, so we had to trade him. Just like last year, it's, we could be the middleman in trades, but in the end, after the trade deadline, he says, well, we didn't get enough of a draft pick. Well, you were probably asking for a second-round pick when teams are getting a fourth-round pick for being the middleman in a trade. That's not making sense. That's just not being, smart.
So last one, a panel question here. we heard that, and we're pretty sure Chris Kreider is getting scratched. The Chris Kreider of a couple of years ago, they wouldn't have dared scratched him, right? He would have been on like the second line, but now he's getting scratched. And there's pretty good, strong rumors that he'll get traded from the Rangers at some point. But again, it's his lowest possible value. But now they're going to try and get out of the cap money, I think, more than the return. What do you guys feel? Do you feel he'll be traded? I think he's going to get traded. I just don't know if it's the deadline or the summer.
I think he still has enough of a reputation where they're going to be able to get something for him, and teams are going to. But again, it's going to be the case where the Rangers will pretty much try to move him off, as you said, for obviously for the cap relief. And another team may benefit a lot in this trade here if he gets out of New York and he's able to kind of find his game again. He could fit in depending on whether it's a contending team or not. I think he's got leadership intangibles too when he's on it, right now. Just this whole situation right now has just been a weird one this year. So yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance here that happens, Russ.
And go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I think it's going to be in the summer because the questions are still there about his back. Mm-hmm. He scored a bunch of goals. I could not believe that he has 3 assists.
Oh yeah.
It's incredible. And I think the drop off has to do with his health. I do, but I also think that the situation and the chaos in New York right now is contributing to his sort of downfall. So I don't know if they can get what value they want to get for him during the season. So I think it'll be the summer.
So I lied. Here's the last one. We saw online, Stefan Rosner posted that Noah Dobson traded agents. Good job, Stefan. I might push you up in
traded agents. Did he get an agent to be named later?
No, but because
Stefan get 2 technically, right?
No, but because Stefan's done such good work here, I might move him up in the charity softball game lineup.
Oh my goodness, he's going to bat second. He's going to be in the Soto slot now.
He could be.
He got a 4th round agent draft pick.
I'm considering that. So just letting him know that. But no, Dobson changing agents doesn't make me think he's staying in New York. I think that's for the next contract. So what do you guys feel about him getting traded? Just like Devin Taves, I think he's getting traded too.
When you see an agent change, that immediately perks my ears up. That the player wants something, and in a lot of cases in this circumstance, I mean, this seems to be moving in that direction, Russ. For what exactly, I'm not sure.
No, I don't know either.
But I do think it sounds like the fact that it got out there that the Islanders were looking to move him. I do wonder if the feeling is mutual. It makes me feel like the feeling is mutual,
right?
That they both want to help.
What this tells me, and the other defenseman who like Dobson, although I think Dobson's better defensively, it's Evan Bouchard. They're both lined up for big paydays after having big years last year. Mm-hmm. This year, they're not having as good a year. I mean, Bouchard's probably going to end up with 60 points. Dobson's not having the offensive year he had last year, but he's still going to be, they're both right-hand shot defensemen. And, is it Lou and Stan Bowman basically in the same boat saying, well, I better get something for these guys now before I have to pay them too much? I mean, Edmonton, they can't, I don't think they can afford to pay Bouchard $10 million and then afford McDavid in a couple years. With the Islanders, I don't think they can afford to pay Dobson because they don't want to afford to pay Dobson. They're going down the same road as Devin Taves. They gave him up for a couple second-round picks. They will regret trading him, but they will trade him, and it'll be stupid, and that doesn't surprise me.
All right. That's it. Timothy Park in the chat room asked if we're going to have a deadline day show. We'll talk about it. Maybe we will. And if we do, I would think we will. And Mike, maybe we could have a Tang taste test on that day, a different flavor.
I'll have to order some from the secret South American depot of Amazon.com. They're the guava flavored. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm scared of some of the flavors. They just sound so.
Why do flavors scare you, Mike? I don't understand. What scares you about guava?
I'm scared.
I just don't understand.
That's how you should end the show. Instead of bye, you should go, I'm scared.
I'm scared that they're laced with fentanyl. Okay, that's what I'm scared about.
Mike, in a sealed container. Oh my
God. Okay. He thinks they're sealed with fentanyl.
I know.
Just get out of the basement, Michael.
That's it for Off the Post. We'll catch everybody next time.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.